Hello, my name is Michael, and this is my wife, Judy Jane, and we're here to talk about intentional relationships. It's important that we have basically a task in front of us, and that's to tell people about, what it means and what we have the hope for and who it's through, which is Jesus Christ. It all comes down to that. That's kind of the mandate.
I think some of the most important things that we can do as believers is just spend time in fellowship with one another. Specifically in things like small groups.
The 4 or 5 of us guys that about a year and a half ago, we were sitting there and God just kind of prompted me to say, hey, would you guys like to get together and eat dinner like this once a week or two and also read through the Bible together? And by my surprise, they said yes.
Early on in our marriage, we would have people over to our house, and sometimes we'd make a dinner on Sunday and have it prepared and ready to go so that after services we could invite people over. That was one of the ways that we intentionally reached out to people, and we would look for people that we either didn't know, and especially look for people that were newcomers to the church, and we'd have them over and their kids, and we'd have a meal together, and we developed a lot of really good friends through that. Some of them are friends to this day that we communicate, and we share that whole experience together. That was really kind of neat.
You develop a relationship where the truth is what I'm after and what you're after, and so then if I'm straying from the truth, I want to hear that, and I know you well enough to know that if you're straying from that truth, you want to hear it too.
It's one of the most important things you can do is just really be honest, because in honesty with each other, if you're honest with each other, you're gonna have to grow.
What I think works for us is me modeling for them. I want them to know how a Christian person should live.
The thing I think, as far as maybe in both, maybe in Christian and non-Christian relationships, that I think people respond to the best is like admitting that you're a screw up. I think people hear that and relate to that well, and I think maybe I'm pretty good at being a screw up, so I can admit to that fairly easily.
And I think a lot of it just comes down to that, whether you're at the grocery store or the gasoline station or work or wherever you are, just to kind of not to focus on ourselves.
As far as non-believers go, it doesn't really change too much. I think it's just important to remember that the way you live your life should be a constant, because if you live your life one way around your believer friends and another way around your non-believer friends, it's going to go completely out the window, your testimony. Consistency in the way that you follow God, and in integrity in what you say and how your actions follow what you say is extremely important.
The thing that I love the most, and a lot of physicians probably cringe at, is the opportunity to get the patient who's coming in and has this emotional need and they just don't really know where to turn. And it's an opportunity to find out more about where they come from. What is it that they're trusting and what are they relying in? And a lot of these are non-believers, but a majority of them in our Christian culture have a somewhat of a Christian knowledge. So it does open up the door for me to be able to share, as a Christian physician, the difference that God can make in their life.
For my relationship with non-believers, I come from a culture where I was born in Peru, and most of the people are Catholic, and they do believe in God, but they don't have a relationship with God. I think eventually they get it when they have something going on in their lives and they remember something that I said. Maybe they'll come to me and I'll just embrace them and talk to them, and sometimes it just bounces back.
I have a friend that I've developed a relationship with and started inviting him to church things that would be appealing to his personality. And sometimes the conversation works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just have to talk about video games or something, and sometimes you can direct it. But it just takes time with people, and I don't think that there's any substitute for that. Like, every conversation comes up eventually if you're with people enough. And as long as we're not afraid of it, you know, when the conversation comes up, that's when the opportunity comes up.
I had an example, I don't know, a couple months ago where my telephone broke down. And I'm kind of a list maker, and that was not on my list to have my telephone break down that day. And I had to go into the Sprint store, and there was one other gentleman, and we had to wait on the service guy to get in. So we were actually had about an hour and 15-minute wait. And so I said, don't you hate it when your phone breaks down? And it just opened a door to start a conversation. And before it was over, I learned that he had had his mom abandon him early in life, and also that he had had a cousin that had died in an automobile accident like about a month and a half. And he shared his life with me, and he was kind of angry at God about the whole situation. And it was an opportunity that I thought, this list is not real important. That was kind of like a God-ordained moment to spend time with that guy. So I think that's the main thing, is just to be focused on, you know, who and what comes into your life, and instead of looking at it as a nuisance, to look at it that there's the bigger plan out there.
We just recently started serving at a local soup kitchen once a month, where the 3 or 4 of us have taken on the responsibility to bring in 10 or 12 volunteers, and we cook, prepare, we serve. We had our first week last month, and we prepared 75 meals and a bunch of other to-go boxes. And so this neighborhood that we moved into 4 years ago has now turned into not just neighbors that we walk out and say hi to, but we have relationships that, going back to what I've learned about being a Christian and honoring God, these relationships are not just for self-gratification, but they're also actually doing a lot of neat stuff to honor God, to serve God, and ultimately serving others. It's really neat to see how God can work if you put Him into the relationship and try to honor Him with everything you do.